Back in late October, I started doing night drives when I couldn't sleep. Empty roads, heater on low, radio soft. Just me and a ribbon of blacktop to think things through. I grew up in a farm county where the fields run flat for miles. When the harvest ends, the roads feel abandoned after 10 p.m. You can coast for 20 minutes without meeting a single set of headlights. That night, I left the house a little after 1:15 a.m. I told myself I'd do a short loop and be back before 2. Thermos, hoodie, phone at 40%. I checked the fuel, half tank, and pulled onto County Road 12. The air had that cold, metallic bite you get just before winter. My wiper ticked once, clearing a mist that wasn't quite fog. I rolled the window down 2 inches to keep from getting drowsy. Things felt normal for the first 10 miles. Barns were dark. A wind turbine blinked red in the distance, like a slow heartbeat. A mile past the old grain elevator, the first wrong note slid in. I caught a flash of hazard lights far ahead, on the straight that runs toward the river. They pulsed a steady amber, patient and calm. I eased off the gas. My high beams washed over a small sedan angled half onto the shoulder. Driver's door open. No one in sight. There's a rule people pass around here. Don't stop on empty roads at night. If someone needs help, you call it in. I reached for my phone, but the top left corner showed one bar flickering in and out. I coasted to a crawl anyway. Habit, curiosity, that human tug that says you might be the only person out here who can help. "Hey," I called through the crack in the window. No answer. The hazards kept winking like a metronome. I pulled alongside and saw the sedan's front tire slashed open. Not flat, cut. A clean mouth in the rubber, edges bright under the beam. That was the moment my stomach went tight. I remembered something a county deputy told my dad after a rash of thefts. People had been tossing boards with nails across back roads to force a stop. I flicked my headlights down the lane. The asphalt looked clean, but it's hard to see a nail when it lies flat. "Call it in," I whispered to myself. I put the car in park, grabbed the phone, and tried 911. The call hung for a second, then failed. One bar, no bar. One bar again, teasing me. A sound rose from the fields, just wind through husks, a dry whisper. And then under that, a wet tap-tap on my passenger door. My heart kicked. I snapped my head right. No one there. Just damp, breathed-on glass and my reflection in it, pale and dumb. I locked the doors. I've never moved that fast in my life. My thumb mashed the button twice for good measure. I told myself to back up and turn around. But the road behind was a tunnel of black, and the shoulder here dipped into a ditch. If I misjudged the angle, I'd be stuck nose first. "Okay," I said out loud, speaking to steady my hands. "Keep it simple." I nudged forward, tires hugging the center line, giving the sedan space. The hazards clicked again. Amber, amber, amber. Something glinted on the road just ahead, low and thin. I braked. My beams caught the edge of a board laid crosswise. 3 roofing nails poked up in a neat row. I felt anger rise in place of fear. Whoever set this expected a stranger to bleed out air, pull over, and wait. I pictured a face behind the ditch grass, counting to 30. I wasn't going to give them my tires. I wasn't going to give them my engine or my name. I reversed, slow, steady. 100 feet back, I angled toward the opposite shoulder, where the gravel was packed from a farm pull-off. The car rolled onto it, and a new sound filled the cabin. The crunchy hiss of pea stone under tread, loud against the quiet night. I cut a shallow arc, nose pointing back the way I'd come. Before I dropped into drive, I scanned the ditch one more time. That's when I saw him. Not a monster, not a ghost. A man in a hooded sweatshirt crouched low beside a culvert pipe. His face stayed in shadow, but I saw the outline of a crowbar resting across his knees. He realized the game was up at the exact moment I saw him. He stood and took 2 quick steps toward the road. I didn't wait to see his eyes. I floored it. The car leapt back onto the asphalt, and the board with nails slid off my left headlight beam into darkness. My hands were ice on the wheel. The next mile felt like 10. I watched the mirror, waiting for running legs or a second set of headlights to appear from a hidden turnout. Nothing came, and the emptiness of that made me feel even more exposed. At the turn for Miller Bridge, the phone caught a solid bar of service. I hit 911 again. This time the call went through on the first ring. I kept my voice steady as I gave the dispatcher the mile marker, the make of the car, and what I'd seen. She told me to drive straight to the Casey's in town and wait with the doors locked. She stayed on the line until I reached the lit pumps. Under the canopy, everything felt too bright. Crickets had gone silent in my head. The world had narrowed to fluorescent buzz and the smell of gasoline. I parked facing the road and kept the engine running. A deputy rolled up within 6 minutes. He was middle-aged, boots dusty, the kind of man who knows every back turn between cornfields. He stood beside my window and let me talk until I ran out of words. He didn't act surprised. He didn't act shocked. He said, calm as coffee, that they'd had a couple of calls like this since the month turned cold. He asked if I'd drive back with him to point out the exact spot. I said yes, because leaving it out there for someone else felt wrong. 2 more units joined us, and we formed a small convoy down the blacktop. The sedan was still there when we returned, hazards pulsing like a tired heartbeat. But the board with nails was gone. So was the man by the culvert. One of the deputies walked the ditch with a flashlight. Its beam slid over husks, beer cans, a torn grocery bag. He found fresh footprints on the muddy lip and called for a photograph. Another deputy checked the sedan and came back shaking his head. No plates. VIN shaved. Ignition punched. They bagged a fallen roofing nail and a length of fishing line found snagged to a weed near the shoulder. It was thin, nearly invisible, and tied in a loop. The deputy explained how it likely ran to the ditch so someone could yank the board back across after a car passed. I stood there with my hood up, breath puffing white in the beams, feeling foolish for almost stopping, feeling a different kind of foolish for almost not calling. The deputy touched the brim of his cap and said something that has stuck with me. Kindness doesn't mean stepping into a trap. Kindness means making sure the next person doesn't step into it either. He told me to head straight home. They'd tow the sedan and sweep the road. If anyone tailed me, I was to pull into the truck stop by the interstate where cameras watch every corner. I drove back slower this time. My hands stopped shaking halfway to town. On the verge by Miller Bridge, a raccoon peered out, then vanished into weeds, like a hand withdrawing. At home, I left the porch light on and sat in my driveway longer than I needed to. The heater clicked and settled. The radio murmured a song I didn't know, low and steady. Sleep didn't come easy after that. For a week, I caught myself glancing at the passenger window, half expecting a breath mark to bloom there. I checked my tires every morning with a flashlight like a pilot on a runway. Life went on, work, groceries, chores. But I stopped doing the aimless 1 a.m. loops. I still believe in helping people on the road. I'll call. I'll wait with my hazards on from a distance. I'll point a cruiser to them. But I won't put my door between a stranger and their plan. There's a quiet most folks never hear, the kind that lives between farm rows and river bends after midnight. It's easy to mistake it for peace. It's not always peace. Sometimes it's the space where someone else's choice waits for yours. Out past the elevator, the red turbine light kept pulsing against the dark. A slow, patient blink, reminding me to keep my eyes up and my distance kind. The city felt hollow at that hour. Empty lanes, green lights that no one needed, air cold enough to sting. I worked nights in the lab that winter, short staff, long shifts. I liked the drive home because it was the only quiet I got all week. That night was clear and sharp. No wind. Street salt crackled under my tires as I rolled out of the employee lot. The heater wheezed. My breath still fogged the glass. I turned onto River Avenue, the industrial stretch that skirts the water. Warehouses, a rail spur, sodium lights that paint everything the color of tea. 2 blocks in, a Crown Vic eased out from a side street and settled behind me. Old body style, tinted. No grill lights that I could see. I didn't think much of it. Those cars are everywhere here, left over from auctions. I set cruise to 35 and kept a steady lane. A mile later, blue and red strobes burst from inside the windshield, the kind you stick to a dash. No siren, just the flash. My gut pulled tight. I was on the darkest part of River Avenue. No other cars. Chain link to my right, the river to my left. I signaled and slowed, but I didn't stop. My dad taught me a rule when I got my license. If an unmarked car tries to pull you over at night, call 911. Confirm first. Stop where it's lit. I clicked my hazards on. I dialed. 1 ring, 2. 911. What's your emergency? I kept my voice even. This is not an emergency. I'm on River Avenue near mile 3. An unmarked vehicle is lighting me up. Crown Vic, no siren. Can you confirm it's you? The dispatcher asked for my plate and location. Stay on the line, she said. Do not stop on the dark stretch. Keep driving to a lit area. We'll check active units. I told her I would stop at the supermart lot up ahead. All glass, all cameras, open all night for stock. The Crown Vic slid closer. The strobes flared brighter in my mirrors, color washing the cabin. My phone speaker hissed with the dispatcher's breath. He's right on me, I said. Copy, she said. No marked units reported near mile 3. Keep moving to the store. We are dispatching a patrol car to meet you. I passed the boat launch. The river steamed like a sleeping thing. The Crown Vic tapped its horn once, short, sharp, then angled left like he wanted me to pull into the gravel turnout. I kept straight, hands at 10 and 2, speed steady at 28. My head was calm and loud at the same time. I could feel my pulse in my neck. The heater smelled faintly of coolant. Every sound in the car got big. The fan, the tires, the tiny rattle in the glove box. 2 more blocks, I told the dispatcher. I see the sign. Good, she said. You are not required to stop for an unmarked unit in an unlit area. Go to the lot. The supermart sat on a corner with a gas station. Bright canopy, 3 cameras under each pump. I swung wide, signaled, and pulled in along the front windows. The Crown Vic followed. No siren, just the red-blue wash. I parked nose out, 8 feet from the glass. Automatic doors slid open, and a night stalker looked up, box cutter in hand. He froze when he saw the lights behind me. I kept the engine running, doors locked, hazards on. My hands stayed high on the wheel where anyone could see them. The Crown Vic idled behind my rear bumper, a little off to the left. The driver's door cracked open. I watched in the mirror. A man stepped out. No uniform, dark jacket, baseball cap. He held up something small and black like a wallet case and made a vague wave, a roll your window down wave. The dispatcher's voice stayed level. Officers are 2 minutes out. Do not exit your vehicle. If he approaches, keep your windows up. He walked to my window and tapped twice with a knuckle. He stood too close, right on the glass line, so my camera saw more shoulder than face. Up close, the wallet thing looked cheap. No shine, no seal. Evening, he said. License. I cracked the window the width of a pencil. Please step back, I said. I'm on the phone with 911. A marked unit is on the way. He smiled without changing his eyes. Don't need a marked unit. You failed to maintain lane. License. The stalker inside the store pulled his phone out and started filming. He moved closer to the window, still holding a case of ramen in his other arm. The man shifted his stance. "Open the door," he said, soft like we were sharing a secret, "or I'll pull you out." I kept my hands where he could see them and said nothing. The dispatcher spoke into the cabin like a coach. "Officers on scene in 30 seconds. Keep your doors locked." The man's eyes flicked to the store and the gas pumps. He noticed the cameras. His jaw worked once like he was chewing a thought. He leaned in toward the glass, so close his breath fogged a small oval. "Next time," he said. Then he stepped back, turned, and walked fast to the Crown Vic. He drove out of the lot with the strobe still flashing. He didn't use the exit lane. He cut through the curb gap by the dumpster and vanished onto Maple. 2 marked cruisers rolled in from opposite sides almost at once. Blue bars on the roof, real push bars, the whole look. My shoulders dropped. I hadn't noticed they were up by my ears. The first officer, a woman about my age, came to my window with her hands clear of any tension. She asked if I was okay. I nodded and passed my info through the small crack. "Good job keeping it here," she said. "Dispatch told us you handled it by the book." The other officer checked the lot and asked the stalker for his video. They watched it together in the reflection of the glass doors. The store night manager came up from the office, keys jangling, face pale. They took my statement. Model, color, direction of travel. Any plates? I hadn't seen plates. The rear was dark. Either it was missing a plate or the frame was blacked out. The first officer angled her body so I could still see the lot. She kept her voice matter of fact. "Impersonator reports spike when the weather turns and people stop expecting real traffic stops at night. We'll broadcast to units in the area and to the county." The store manager brought me a bottle of water I didn't know I needed. My hands shook as I opened it. The cap made a small crack that sounded too loud. Dispatch patched the gas station's cameras through to the officers' tablets. They scrubbed back 30 seconds. Freeze. Zoom. A partial plate lit silver on the front bumper when the Crown Vic cut past the pump. 2 letters, then a smear. "Better than nothing," the second officer said. He radioed it out. We stood there for a minute in the wash of white and blue. The lot smelled like warm rubber and hot bulbs. A train horn carried up from the river. The first officer ran through a few points while I calmed down. "If a car behind you lights up in the dark, call 911 and name your location. Turn on hazards. Drive to a well-lit public place. Keep your doors locked. Don't roll windows down more than a finger's width. Ask dispatch to confirm a unit. If it's not them, wait inside until marked patrol arrives." She said it the way you'd teach someone to check a smoke alarm, plain and steady, no scare, just facts. They offered to follow me home or to the freeway. I chose the freeway. Less chance of side streets and surprises. The drive to the on-ramp felt unreal. The cruisers sat behind me like 2 patient dogs. My mirrors were full of them. On the ramp, the officer in the lead flashed her takedown lights across the shoulder. Just once, like a sweep of daylight. It showed an empty merge and a clean lane. I got up to speed. At the top of the ramp, the 2 cruisers peeled off with a short whoop of siren like a goodbye. I lifted a hand from the wheel in thanks. The rest of the drive was quiet. No Crown Vic, no cars at all for a few exits. When I pulled into my apartment lot, the eastern sky held a thin gray line. Not dawn yet, just its idea. I sat in the driver's seat with the engine off and the cabin ticking as it cooled. The silence felt heavy and kind at the same time. I texted my dad before I went in. "Your rules saved me tonight." He called right away, groggy voice, quick breath. He didn't say much, he just listened while I told it twice. For a few weeks after, I adjusted my route. More lights, more cameras. I kept the 911 call record pinned on my phone and the list of steps in my notes. I still drive at night. Sometimes I have to, but I don't ignore that small lift of hair on the back of my neck anymore. That's not drama. That's a small part of you trying to keep you alive. There was a detail I didn't mention to anyone because it seemed small and maybe nothing. When the man leaned in at my window, the fog his breath left on the glass had a sweet note, not mint. Something chemical, like windshield washer fluid or cheap cologne. It doesn't matter who he was. It matters that I didn't give him a door to open. When I finally lay down, the first light of morning touched the edge of the blinds. It looked like a thin seam sewn into the night, neat and straight, holding. We were an hour past town when the highway ran out of light. Just 2 lanes, fence posts, and a sky so clear you could count the stars. We had driven out to watch the meteor shower. Small thermos of coffee, a blanket in the back. No music for once, just the hum of the tires and our voices. It was late July, warm, but the air dipped cool in the low spots near the river. We kept the windows cracked an inch. Crickets filled the car like soft static. Maya rode shotgun with her feet on the dash. She traced constellations on the glass with her fingertip. I watched the center lines spool past. We were happy to be nowhere. A sign flashed up and faded. Pavement ends 1 mile. I missed the turn for County 7 and decided to keep going. Gravel's fine, I said. She shrugged. We've got time. The asphalt narrowed and turned pale. Dust lifted under the beam in slow curls. We passed a cattle gate, then a mailbox with no numbers. Fields on both sides, cut low and silver in starlight. We hit the first washboard stretch and laughed at the shake. I eased off the gas to spare the shocks. That's when the first odd thing slid in. The stop sign at the T looked wrong, turned a quarter. Not facing the road we were on. It pointed out toward the field like someone had loosened the bolts and nudged it. Maya sat up straighter. That's off, she said. Yeah. I slowed and rolled to the line anyway. Left and right were long gray lanes with tractor ruts and dark hedges. No traffic, no yard lights. We had a rule for back roads we picked up from her father. If you turn and the road ahead loses the center line and the mailboxes vanish, you're in the wrong place. We looked left, no paint. Looked right, no paint. Straight? She asked. There was no straight, just a ditch. I checked the map on the dash mount. The blue dot hovered with nothing under it. We were in a dead zone where maps turned to plain green. We took a right. The lane ran tight between trees for a 1/4 mile. Grass grew high in the center between the tire tracks. Something scraped the undercarriage, dry stalks or a rock, I couldn't tell. Smell that? Maya asked. I did. Hot metal and a sweet note like coolant. It worried me, but the temperature gauge sat steady. We came out of the trees into open fields again. A house sat ahead on a rise. One light burned on the porch. Blue. I'd seen those lights in town. Some folks use them to mark support for first responders. Out here it felt like a lighthouse. Turn around there? Maya asked. Yeah, good idea. I signaled. Old habit. No one to see it, but it made the turn feel more real. As I eased toward the house lane, a pair of headlights flared to life in the rear view. I checked my speed without thinking. 28, not fast. The lights didn't crawl. They surged. Maya saw them and put her hand on my arm. Keep going. I pulled back to the ruts and straightened. The truck behind us, had to be a truck by the height of the lamps, closed the distance in seconds. High beams punched the cabin white. Okay, I said. Okay. I tapped the brakes twice to show I'd seen him. He didn't drop his lights. He moved closer until I couldn't see his hood. My mouth went dry. Maya cracked her window more and listened for the sound a drunk driver makes when he weaves. The truck stayed arrow straight. Phones? I asked. She checked hers, one bar that blinked. Mine had none. We reached a shallow dip where the road bent to a creek. A small bridge, just 2 guardrails and a plank deck. The wood thumped under us. On the far side, the lane split at a fork. Left dipped into trees. Right climbed a hill. "Pick one," I said. "Right," she said. "Up is safer." I took the hill. The truck stayed with us, beams burning, bumper in the mirror. I could feel the heat of my own anger now, wedged in with the fear. "Back off," I said to no one. At the top, the road leveled and a field opened wide, stripped after haying. At the far fence line, another blue porch light glowed. A second house, farther than it looked. "Go to it," Maya said. I started to, then saw the fence gate across the lane. Closed. A heavy chain across 2 posts. No room to turn without stopping. The truck's lights bounced as it hit the crest behind us. It revved. I could hear the pitch through the glass. I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to show him our brake lights and sit there like a pinned rabbit. I pulled onto the field edge instead, right wheels on packed grass, and kept speed. The truck eased over too, not touching us, just matching. He clicked his high beams off and on once, a flash like a camera. Then again. Maya's voice went calm in that way she has when she decides not to panic. "Next driveway with a light. We pull in. We keep the doors locked. We lean on the horn. Wake someone." We watched for any glow ahead. Nothing but the blue light and dark windows. I could hear the truck's tires kick stones. A ping hit our rear quarter. Not hard, a taunt. "Left," she said suddenly. I saw it at the same time. A side lane cut between hedges. A posted sign hung crooked, but I couldn't read it until we were on it. Farm access only. The turn felt tight. We slid a bit on the gravel and corrected. The truck followed. Of course he did. The lane ran 50 yards to a cattle guard and a wired gate. Past it, I saw a yard light blink on at a barn. Motion sensor. A good sign. 3-point and out, Maya said. "Block him for a second." I pulled up close to the gate, nose almost over the pipe. Reverse. Turn hard. The truck rolled in behind, not close enough to tap us, but close enough to make me feel the breath on my neck. As I swung the tail around, Maya reached across me and laid on the horn. It blared across the pasture like a foghorn. Once, twice, 3 times. The barn light brightened. A porch light at the farmhouse clicked on back by the trees. A dog barked, deep and angry. 2 more lights popped on in the house like someone was moving quick from room to room. The truck's engine note changed. It idled there, a low grumble, then backed up a yard like the driver was thinking. I completed the turn, straightened, and drove past him without stopping. He didn't block us. He didn't chase as hard when we hit the lane again. He sat a long beat, then followed at a distance. Maya kept the horn warm every 20 seconds. The sound carried. Another porch light appeared ahead on the left, then another on the right, like the road itself was waking. We reached the blue porch lighthouse. Up close, I could see a porch swing and a pair of boots by the door. An old flag hung limp. I slowed and pulled in just enough to face the road. Maya rolled her window a finger's width and stuck her phone out at shoulder height so the back camera would see. She held it steady on the road. The truck rolled into view. It stopped across from the driveway and idled. I could see the outline now. Older Ford, flat gray, no plate on the front. Something heavy dangled from the hitch, a chain or a strap. The porch light clicked brighter. The door opened. A man in a t-shirt stepped out with a hand up to shade his eyes. He looked at our car, then at the truck. "You folks okay?" he called. Maya answered through the crack. "We're calling the sheriff." The man nodded, like this was not the first time he'd heard that sentence. He took a few steps off the porch, kept his own distance, and stood in the open where the cameras could see him. The truck idled another few seconds. Then it rolled forward slow, past the house, and drifted away without a sound beyond the engine. I tracked it in the mirror until the taillights vanished into the hedges. My shoulders dropped hard. I hadn't felt how high they'd climbed. The man on the porch thumbed toward the house. "Sit tight. I'm calling too," he said. "Sheriff's short at night, but someone will come by." We waited in the driveway with the engine running and the doors locked. I watched the field edges and the bends. Maya finally got a bar and got through to dispatch. She gave mile markers we guessed at and the house number with the blue light. The porch man stayed outside. He didn't crowd us. He just stood there in a pool of blue, arms folded, scanning the road like a sentry. A deputy arrived in about 10 minutes, gravel crackling under his tires. He parked half in the lane to make a bright, hard shape across it. He listened while we told it, then asked the porch man what he'd seen. "Just trouble," the man said. "Been 2 break-ins on this side this month. Folks creeping roads they don't belong on." The deputy wrote that down. He asked for a description of the truck. We gave him what we had. Older Ford, gray, no front plate, chain on hitch, high beams used like a weapon. He nodded, like that matched a box he already kept in his head. Seen a couple like that running the back roads, trying to crowd folks into stopping. Sometimes it's just a scare. Sometimes it isn't. You did right with the horn and the lights. He offered to follow us back to the paved county road. We took him up on it. Maya thanked the porch man for staying with us. He waved it off like it wasn't special. As we pulled away, I looked back at the blue porch light. It looked less eerie now, just steady. The deputy led us past the crooked stop sign and the creek bridge, then out to County 7 where the paint lines came back like rails. He flashed a quick whoop of siren in a friendly way and peeled off to patrol. We drove in silence for a while. The crickets returned. The air warmed again as we dropped out of the low ground. Maya put her feet back up and leaned her head on the glass. She was quiet, but her eyes kept moving. She was still listening for gravel, still weighing light and shadow. We never got to the overlook. We spread the blanket on our apartment floor and watched the meteor shower through the window instead. A streak here, another there. Soft, silent scratches across the sky. A few days later, we took the paved route to the lake and back before dark. The stop sign had been set straight. A fresh set of bolts shone. The mailboxes had numbers again in black paint. I still like rural roads. I like the quiet. But I keep a new list taped inside the glove box now. Don't follow a rotated sign. If the map turns green, turn back. Lights mean people. People beat empty fields. Horns wake neighbors. Blue porch lights can be a harbor. We never learned who drove that truck or what they wanted. That's fine with me. Some answers aren't worth the price of finding out. On later nights, when we pass a farm and see a single porch light burning, we each look once and nod. It feels like a small, steady star you can touch, set at the edge of the road. The rain started like a curtain drop. 1 second dry, the next a wall of water. Wipers on full, tires humming. A black road with no edges. It was late March when the river flooded. Work kept me till almost 2 a.m. I took the east route home because the interstate was closed for construction. That meant a 2-lane causeway skimming low across the marsh. I've always liked that road in daylight. Egrets, shallow water flashing like metal. At night and in a storm, it turns into a tunnel with no walls, just darkness pressing in. The first 5 miles were fine. Steady rain, occasional gust. Wipers thumped. Heater defogged the lower half of the glass, but the top stayed misted like breath. Then the storm hit hard. The kind of downpour that erases the world. Wind shoved at the car. I slowed to 40, then 30, then less. There's a rule I keep for nights like that. Pick a speed you can stop from in the distance you can see. On the causeway, that distance shrank to the reach of my low beams. Anything beyond that was just a gray sheet. Halfway across, I saw the first wrong note. 2 small amber blinks far ahead. Hazard lights. They pulsed and disappeared behind the rain, then pulsed again. I eased off the gas and put my own flashers on for 2 beats, just to warn anyone behind me if there was a ditch in the flow. No one answered. No taillights. I was alone with the river and the noise. As I crept closer, a white van took shape on the right shoulder, nose canted toward the guardrail. Driver's door open. No interior light. I checked the shoulder. There wasn't one. Water lapped at the edge of the asphalt. Stopping there would mean tires half on, half off, a recipe for a slide. I rolled to a crawl. 30, 25. My high beams only made the rain into needles, so I kept them low. Someone stepped out from behind the van. Dark hood, arms waving in that universal slow down arc. They stood almost in the lane. I cracked my window 2 finger widths and called, "I'm calling for help. Move back from the road." No answer. They kept waving. I hate not stopping when someone looks stranded, but the water on the causeway left nowhere safe to pull over, and my phone had 1 bar trying to hold on. I edged left to give room. The person stepped with me toward the center line, like they wanted to be close to my window. Every lesson I've ever gotten about night driving stacked in my chest. Don't stop on a bridge. Don't open your door in traffic.
If you can't pull fully off the road, don't pull off at all.
I kept rolling at walking speed. "Back up," I called again. "I'm calling 911. The hooded figure paused, put one hand up like a weight, then angled toward my front fender as if to block it. That's when a second shape moved in the edges of the rain, close to the guardrail. Low, quick. I wouldn't have noticed if lightning hadn't flashed and made the road bright for less than a heartbeat. 2 people, one to wave you down, one in your blind corner. I put both hands firm on the wheel and kept the car dead straight. I did not stop. I did not speed up and spray water. I just moved past at 10 miles an hour, mirror inches from the waving arm, foot ready in case they stepped in. They didn't. They turned their face, hood dripping, and watched me creep by. No yell, no bang on the panel. Just a long look I felt through glass. As soon as I had their bumper past my back wheel, I accelerated to 25. My thumb found the hazard button again, 2 quick pulses, and I called 911. The call took longer than I liked to connect. When the dispatcher answered, her voice sounded small and far, like she was talking through rain too. I gave the mile marker painted on the low concrete wall, the direction of travel, and what I'd seen. She asked if I was safe to keep rolling. "Yes," I said. She told me to continue to the next turnout on the mainland and wait for a unit. She also said the river was cresting, and they might close the causeway from the west side any minute. I checked my mirror. The van's hazards were still pulsing, but now another set of lights appeared behind it. Headlights, low, coming on slow and steady. I felt a cold slide under my sternum. "Do you have a unit already near mile 14? I asked the dispatcher. "Negative," she said. "Nearest is coming from Eastgate, 10 minutes out." The headlights behind the van dipped left into the lane. The car, another van, a sedan, pulled out and started moving in my direction. I kept even. No panic, no speed. I repeated my mile marker, then gave the next one as I passed it, like breadcrumbs the dispatcher could follow. The rain eased for a stretch, then came back heavier. Water pooled in the low spots and tugged at the tires. I kept the wheel relaxed and the throttle smooth. Don't brake in standing water. That's another rule. The oncoming lights slid into the center, not fully in my lane, not fully out. As we drew even, the driver flashed their highs once, a slow blink. We missed mirrors by inches. I caught a smear of a face. Blank. Focused past me, like I was just a part of the rain. I passed the next marker, mile 16, out loud for the dispatcher. "Copy," she said. "Keep going. Next safe place is the bait shop pull-off by the East Guard." Lightning walked across the clouds to my left. For a second, the marsh went white, and the causeway looked like a chalk line. In the same flare, I saw reflective triangles set behind the white van. 3 of them, neat and precise. Most stranded drivers don't have triangles. People who plan stops do. I didn't say that out loud. I just drove. A gust hit the car like a shoulder. Hydroplane shimmer lifted under the tires, that sick feeling where the wheel gets light and the sound changes. I eased off the gas and let the tread bite down again. The car reconnected with a soft grip. Ahead, a pickup loomed out of the gray, crawling with its hazards on. It was angled wrong in the lane, like a crab. The bed was piled with tarps. I slowed to 15 and drifted left to go around. The driver's door cracked open. A figure climbed out, hand up. There was no shoulder here, just water lapping at the edge and the guardrail black with wet. No safe place for me to stop. No safe place for them either. They stepped toward my window. I rolled it down 1 inch, nothing more, and kept the car in gear with my foot on the brake. "You can't stop here," I shouted. "I'm calling highway patrol." They stared at me like the words didn't fit the space between us. Rain beat on their hood. They pointed at the bed like I should get out and look. I shook my head. "Move your truck or someone will hit you." I eased around, tires whispering on paint, and continued. The dispatcher asked if I could give descriptions. "Too dark, too much water," I said. "White cargo van, possibly 2 people. Old pickup at mile 17. Triangles behind the van at 15. "Copy," she said. "Units are coming from both sides now. Keep to the right lane when you reach the bait shop. Do not exit the vehicle." I reached the East Guard and saw the glow of the bait shop like a tiny island. Bad coffee, minnows, a rack of ponchos by the door. The pull-off was higher than the road, gravel mounded and half flooded. I eased in nose first, left room to angle out, and parked facing the causeway. I kept the engine running, heater on, doors locked. The rain drummed. It filled the world so completely that smaller sounds vanished inside it. I had a floaty second where I couldn't tell if my heart was beating fast or if the car was just trembling from the wind. Headlights appeared through the curtain. 2 sets, roof bars lit. Patrol. They slid past me and blocked the road with calm geometry, blue-white and solid. An officer came to my window with his hat brim dripping and his hands visible. I cracked my window the width of a pen and handed him my license under my knuckles. He didn't ask for it. He just wanted me to feel like we were doing something normal. He listened while I told it, then nodded. "We've had a few out here during floods," he said. "People staging as disabled vehicles to get folks to stop. Sometimes it's theft, sometimes worse. You did right not stopping on the bridge." "How do you handle it?" I asked. "We get them off the causeway. If it's legit, we'll give them a push-up to dry ground. If not, they tend to leave when we show up." His partner checked the bait shop cameras and pointed down the causeway. Through the rain, the white van's hazards went dark. No movement after. They radioed to the west end. Another unit had eyes on a pickup pulled sideways at mile 17. They were moving it now. No driver present when they arrived. "Could have been folks stuck," the officer said.
Could have been folks making stuck.
We watched the rain paint the light between us. It settled into a heavy roar, then softened. The road took shape again in layers. First a gray ribbon, then reflectors, then the thin white edge. He told me to wait a few more minutes until they cleared the last piece off the bridge. I sat with my hands on the wheel the way pilots do when they're waiting for a gate. A half memory stirred, my mother's voice when she taught me to drive in rain. Flashing lights mean many things. Yours should mean you're thinking. When they waved me on, I drove the last mile at 25 and counted the markers out loud, even though the dispatcher had signed off. 17, 18, 19, mainland. At home, I could still hear the storm in my head, a kind of ghost roar. I toweled off by the door and laid my keys on the table like they were heavy. I updated the note I keep in my glove box. It used to say, "If someone waves you down in bad weather, stop and help. Now it says, if there's no shoulder, do not stop. Call from the car. Describe the mile markers. Keep windows high. Low beams in heavy rain. Don't outrun what you can see. Triangles usually mean prepared. Prepared isn't always stranded. Meet help where the ground is dry and the cameras are real. I still think about the face under that dripping hood. I hope they were just wet and desperate. I hope someone with a tow rope and a truck met them in a safe pull-off later. I hope I didn't pass a chance to help. That would have cost me nothing. But I keep replaying that second figure moving low by the guardrail. The triangles set too perfect. The way the pickup door cracked open into live traffic in the heaviest rain of the year. I'd rather be careful and wrong than kind and gone. By dawn, the storm slouched off east. The marsh steamed in pale light, flat and wide, as if the road had never been a line between danger and safe, just a narrow seam stitched through water, holding. The mountain road held its breath at night. No guardrails in stretches, switchbacks stacked like folded ribbon. It was early September when my sister and I left the family cabin after dinner. No traffic, clear sky, and that dry pine smell you only get above 6,000 feet. We planned to be back in the valley by midnight. I drove. Sarah handled music and snacks. We both knew the pass well, but only in daylight. At night, the drop-offs looked like blank space. I kept the car in third for the descent. Engine braking is your friend when the road tilts. My dad drilled that into us. The first 8 miles were easy. Hairpins, short straights, reflectors like crumbs leading us down. The first wrong note came at mile 39. A sedan sat half in a turnout with its hood up. No hazards, just a dome light and a shadow moving inside. "Do we stop?" Sarah asked. I wanted to. Then I pictured where we'd stand, 2 feet from a lane with no shoulder and a cliff on the other side. I eased by at 15, window cracked. "You okay?" I called out. The shadow didn't answer. It stilled, like it was listening. "We'll call from a safe pull-off," I said. We rolled on. Sarah watched the mirror. "No one got out," she said. Her voice had that thin edge people get when their gut speaks first. My phone lost service a turn later. Bars vanished just like that. Common on that side of the range. "Next call box," I said. "They still have those on 42. The road tightened. The cliff face leaned in. Our headlights found rock scars from old slides. We rounded another curve and met a white SUV tailing close on fresh air alone. It hadn't been there a second ago. No sound until it was on us. High on the bumper. No room to be casual. I eased into the next turnout so it could pass. It didn't. It pulled in behind us, tight enough that I saw the driver's silhouette lean forward. "Keep your doors locked," Sarah said. The driver flashed their headlights 3 times and pointed down at our rear wheel, that universal "you've got a problem" point. I didn't get out. I put the car in first, hazards on, and cracked my window the width of a key. "You good?" I called back. They rolled their window down 2 inches. A voice came out flat, almost rehearsed. "You've got smoke from your back tire. You need to stop." No smell of rubber in our cabin. No pull in the wheel. No whisper of belt on tread. "Thanks. We'll check at the next station," I said. The driver angled their hand like now. They didn't show a face, just the edge of a cap and a wrist. I put my blinker on and eased back onto the road. The SUV followed, close. Sarah spoke low without looking away from the mirror. "If we had a fire, we'd smell it." "Yep." "If we had a flat, you'd feel it." "Yep." The SUV flashed its lights again, longer. Then it drifted left as if to pass, matched our speed, and the passenger window lowered an inch. A second voice, male, said one word through the gap. "Pull." We didn't. I kept steady at 28, hands at 9 and 3, eyes forward, checking the next reflector, then the next. The SUV fell back. Then it bumped forward again, Not a hit, more like a nudge from the air. "Runaway truck ramp in 2 miles," I said. "If they crowd, we take it. It's open, flat, and lit." Sarah nodded, already holding her phone up just in case a bar flickered, camera ready on the rear. Mile 41 slid past under the odometer. White paint numbers flashed by on granite. The grade steepened. The SUV tightened in. Its brights snapped on. The cabin washed to blue-white. For a second, the road vanished in glare. I tapped the brake twice, just enough for my lights, not enough to slow hard. A signal to anyone coming around the bend behind the SUV. There was no anyone. We reached the next switchback. The SUV dropped its brights and stayed with us. The passenger hand came up and made a slow circular motion, another pull-over cue. We crossed a 1-lane bridge where the creek cut the mountain, old timber sides, a metal sign we had to nose past. As our tires thumped off the last plank, a flashlight beam flicked in the trees upstream and then snapped off. Sarah saw it too. "Did you?" "Yeah." "Okay." She sat forward in her seat like that would lift the car. My shoulders were tight in my jacket. I rolled my window up the rest of the way and said it the way you say numbers to ground your brain. "Third gear, 26, next ramp at 42. A minute later, we saw the sand lane open like a beige tongue from the right. A single light pole stood at the far end. Beyond that, a slope of pea gravel and a reflector wall. I signaled. The SUV closed. I didn't hesitate. I took the ramp. The car thumped into the sand and dragged a little, as it should. We came to a clean stop in the flat. The SUV idled at the mouth of the ramp and didn't follow. It sat there with its headlights aimed at the sand and the reflector wall. For a 3 count, nothing moved. Then its reverse lights winked on. It backed up slow, turned its nose downhill, and rolled away. We watched until the red dots slid behind the granite. I could hear my breath and the tick of our cooling rotors. A minute later, a state maintenance truck appeared uphill, orange beacon turning. It pulled into the ramp behind us and parked crosswise. A man in a reflective jacket leaned out. "You two okay?" "Yeah," I said. "Someone tried to wave us off for smoke. We took the ramp to be safe." He nodded, like this wasn't new. "People run the smoke trick up here, or they bump you soft and say you hit them. You did right taking this instead of a blind turnout." He walked the length of our car with a flashlight. No smoke, no heat plume. He pointed the light at my rear discs. "Warm, not glowing, you're fine. Keep it in a lower gear and don't ride the brake." Sarah told him about the flashlight above the bridge. He looked that way and exhaled through his teeth. "We've had stagers in that stretch, mix of thieves and bored idiots. We sweep it when we can." He clicked his radio and said our ramp was occupied. Another voice answered with a pop of static. I asked about calling the highway patrol. He said he already had. "No bars up here for most carriers. There's a box 3 turns down, but it's better for us to stay put and let patrol come to us." We waited in the ramp with the dome light off. The maintenance truck blocked the entrance like a bright, solid gate. Beyond him, the mountain grew quiet again. Headlights finally rose from below. A marked patrol car nosed into the ramp, parked nose to nose with the maintenance truck at an angle, and an officer stepped out. We told it plain. He listened without interrupting. He asked for a description of the SUV, white. Late model. Dealer plate frame, maybe? But the front plate I couldn't swear to. 2 people inside. Cap on the driver. Passenger's voice male, calm. He wrote it down. He didn't look surprised. Been a run of helpful stranger stops in the last few weeks. Some legit, some not. Stopping people at night on grades gives them the leverage. He gave us clear steps for the rest of the descent. Take 2nd gear through the next 2 miles. The grade steepens before it eases. Use turnouts only if you can pull fully in with rock wall behind you. If someone tries the point and wave, acknowledge with hazards, and drive to a staffed pull-off. Ranger station, lodge, station with cameras. Do not exit your vehicle on a blind curve. If you think you're being boxed, ramps and chain-up areas are safe harbors. They're lit, flat, and engineered for mistakes. He offered to sit behind us to the lodge lot at mile 35, where the first camera sits. We took him up on it. The maintenance truck led out first, sweeping debris. We followed. Patrol brought up the rear with takedowns washing the walls. The mountain road felt smaller, with 3 sets of lights, but also real again, edges visible. We passed the turnout where the sedan had been with the hood up. It was gone now. No drip stain on the pavement, no triangle, nothing. Just scuffed gravel where tires had turned around. The 1-lane bridge looked narrower going up. The creek talked at the edges. Cold, quick sound. I stayed in second and let the engine hold. At the lodge lot, the officer idled behind us while we parked in full view of 3 cameras. The night clerk stood at the window with a phone in his hand, curious but not worried. "Any chance your brakes were smoking?" the officer asked. "One more check." "No," I said. "We would have smelled it." He nodded. "You made good calls. People forget you're allowed to choose where to stop. You're not obligated to take the first dark pull-off because someone points." We thanked him and the maintenance guy. They split opposite directions, one up, one down, to look for that white SUV and the flashlight pair by the bridge. We lingered in the lodge lot long enough for my hands to stop buzzing. Sarah set our water bottles on the roof, and we drank without talking. Pines pressed close around the building. The sky above them was crowded with stars. The rest of the drive felt routine once we hit the valley floor. Lines on the road, cruise control at 55. Civilization sneaking back in with yard lights and the occasional dog bark. We reached home a little after midnight. I slept light. In my head, I kept seeing the SUV idling at the mouth of the ramp, not coming in, not leaving for a beat too long, like it had to decide who we were. Later that week, I printed a small card for the glove box. It sits with a flashlight and a cheap reflective triangle. Downshifts first, brakes second. If smoke is pointed out, choose a lit lot or a ramp. Don't stop where you can't step. Call boxes beat no bars. If your gut spikes, make a plan out loud. Turnouts with a wall behind you, not a drop. We still go back to the cabin. We still take the pass. But we treat the mountain like a place that respects clarity. Give it your plan, and it usually gives you time. On clear nights now, from the valley, I can see a faint thread of headlights cross the ridge line, tiny beads sliding along the dark. They look fragile from here, but most of them make it over, one careful choice at a time. Fog rolled in off the ocean like a slow tide, swallowing the cliffs and the line of the road. I killed my high beams and drove by the right-hand fog line, one white thread keeping me honest. I was driving home from a late shift at the marina, the kind that leaves your hands smelling like rope and diesel. It was almost 1:30 a.m., and the coastal highway was empty except for the ocean, which you never see at night so much as here. On clear evenings, I'd take the long way for the view. On fog nights, I did it because there was no traffic, and I liked the quiet. The air came through the vents, damp and cold. Salt stayed in the back of my throat. Every few minutes a buoy bell rang somewhere out in the dark water. Faint, steady, the same 2-note call. I kept it slow, low beams. Defroster aimed at the glass. Windows cracked a finger's width to hear tires on the paint. The first wrong note showed up outside Whale Cove, where the road pinches near a cliff wall and a narrow turnout. 2 orange cones sat in my lane, spaced 30 feet apart. A cardboard detour arrow sign leaned against the cliff. I eased off the gas. No work trucks, no arrows lighting the fog, no smell of hot asphalt, just cones and a hand-painted sign. The turnout the arrow pointed at was tiny, barely wide enough for 2 cars nose to tail. It ended in a dark drop, waves grinding at rock. Even in the fog, I knew that turnout. It wasn't a route anywhere. I stopped 15 feet short of the first cone and set my hazards to a slow pulse. My window stayed cracked. The ocean hissed under the cliffs. The bell rang once, twice. There's a rule I keep for the coast. If a detour sign points you somewhere that would sound like surf under your tires in 10 seconds, it's not a road. I leaned forward and scanned for reflectors. The main lane glittered faint white ahead. The turnout didn't glitter at all. I rolled down another inch and called out, "Crew out there?" Nothing. Just water on rock. I idled forward and eased around the cones without crossing the center line. The cardboard signs slumped, paint streaked by mist. No stamp from the highway department. No legs. It was the kind you prop for a yard sale. 20 seconds later, a set of headlights glowed in my mirror out of nowhere. No engine noise at first, like they were coasting with me. Then a low hum. They stayed back 100 yards, 2 pale coins in the fog. I checked my speed. 30. Kept it there. Hands at 10 and 2. I said the mile marker out loud when I saw the next one. 63. Saying numbers helps when your gut goes quiet and your head gets loud. The headlights drew closer in slow, measured increments. Not aggressive, just there. I tapped my hazards twice to let them know I saw them. No answer. They held position. Past the next headland, the fog thickened. I lost the center line. All I had was the fog line and the echo of the ocean below. The bell sounded again. 2 notes, and then again, closer to right under us than out to sea. My phone showed 1 bar, then none, then 1 again. I pressed the side button, dialed, and got lucky. 911, what's your emergency? Not an emergency yet, I said, keeping my voice level. Possible fake detour cones at Whale Cove turnout, northbound. 1 car behind me holding distance. I'm at mile 62 now, fog heavy. Copy, she said. Stay on the line. Are you able to continue to a safe pullout with lights? We can send a unit from the south. Do not take any unmarked detours. I won't, I said. Next state beach lot is Pelican Point, 2 miles. Good. Keep doors locked. Windows up if someone approaches. If the vehicle behind closes in, tell me. The bell clanged again through the fog. Steadier now. A second bell answered farther out, like a call and response. The headlights behind me slipped closer, then eased back like they were matching my breath. I kept the wheel quiet and my speed steady. Surf hissed loud to the right, then fell away where the cove ended. I said the next marker out loud, 61, and the dispatcher repeated it. Right before Pelican Point, the fog turned from gray to white in the headlights, a flat wall. I rolled off the throttle. The white resolved into glare, bouncing off something ahead. A car sat at an angle across the entry to the beach lot, nose to the highway, high beams hammering at the fog. I stopped 10 car lengths short and let my hazards do the talking. The car didn't move. Its beams stayed fixed. Behind me, the 2 pale coins paused and held. Talk to me, the dispatcher said. High beams across Pelican Point entrance, I said. Can't see anything behind them. 1 car behind me stopped at distance. Copy. I'm advising our unit. Do not approach. If you have room, turn across the center into the southbound lane and continue to harbor overlook. Larger lot, cameras. It's another mile. If you do not have room, sit tight. We have a unit 3 minutes out from the south. I eased left, used the center paint as a guide, and made a slow, wide swing around the glare. As we passed, the shape behind the beams took form. A compact hatchback with the plate folded up in a plastic cover. The driver's silhouette looked away from us as if their attention was on something deep in the car. No move to wave, no hand up, just light. I completed the swing and slipped back into the northbound lane. The trailing headlights followed. Through the mirror and the wash of fog, I caught one detail: no front plate. Not unusual in some states, but around here the absence reads as a choice. The road bent along a cliff with a short stone wall. I stayed close to the right-hand paint. The bell marked the seconds. A gull cried in the fog, ragged and wrong in the middle of the night. The harbor overlook lot appeared as a darker rectangle in the gray, then resolved into glareless sodium light, soft orange that doesn't bounce back as hard. 2 lamp poles hummed. A camera housing blinked a red dot near the roofline of the restroom building. I pulled in nose out, center of the lot, where the cameras had the cleanest shot. Engine running, doors locked, windows up now. The trailing cars slowed at the entrance and idled on the highway facing south, like a shark choosing whether to turn in. They didn't. They rolled on. 2 minutes later, a marked unit slid into the lot from the opposite side, lights low. The officer angled across the entry and parked with the kind of tidy geometry that makes you breathe easier. He approached with his hands visible and his head tilted so his hat brim didn't hide his face. I cracked my window an inch and gave my name and the mile markers I'd called in. He listened, asked me to point where the cones had been, and radioed a second unit to sweep Whale Cove. I mentioned the hatchback with the high beams and the folded plate cover. He wrote that down. While we were talking, another set of headlights crept north and slowed by the lot entrance, then kept going when the officer turned his head. You could almost feel the decision happen in the fog and move on. "Cones like that?" he said, tucking his notebook. "We've pulled a few off turnouts this month. People put them out at night to create one-way pockets and box folks in. Sometimes it's a prank. Sometimes it's people trying door handles. Sometimes they want more." He looked at the cameras and the poles. Coming here was smart. Sodium lights help, less glare. Avoid high beam traps. If you ever need to blow past one, keep your eyes on the right-hand paint. The fog line is your friend.
He offered to follow me to the next town.
I said yes. The buoy bell rang again, closer than it had been, then faded as the fog shifted. That bell had been my metronome for the last 20 minutes, cutting the night into even pieces. We drove north together, me in front, his cruiser a steady blue-white behind. We passed the Pelican Point entrance. The hatchback was gone. A wet print remained where its tires had idled on the blacktop. At Whale Cove, another unit idled with hazards on. 2 cones sat on the shoulder. One had a thumbprint of black spray paint on the base. The cardboard sign leaned against the cliff, empty arrow pointing at rock. The officer behind me clicked his takedowns on for a moment and watched the turnout in bright, even light. Seagrass bent. Mist tore into scraps and stitched back together. We reached town at 2:05 a.m. He peeled off before the bridge with a short whoop of siren, a small, friendly sound. I crossed the river and exhaled for real for the first time since the cones. At home, I wrote a fresh card for the glove box. I keep them short so I can read them when my brain is buzzy. Low beams and fog. Drive the fog line, not the void. Detours without trucks aren't detours. Never aim into glare. Cameras and sodium lights beat high beams in a turnout. If in doubt, say the mile markers aloud. Bells repeat. Use them to count. I told the marina crew the story on my next shift. 2 of them had their own versions. Cones near the lighthouse. A road-closed sawhorse at a cliff pullout with footprints around it. None of us thought it was ghosts. All of us thought it was people misusing darkness and weather. A week later, I drove that stretch at noon. Clear sky. Tourists parked at Harbor Overlook, holding their phones out like offerings. Whale spouts stitched white arcs out past the rocks. The bells still rang, softer. I walked to the wall and looked straight down to where the surf pumped the cove like a lung. Fog changes your shape in the world. You shrink to a cone of sight and a handful of rules. I like that in a way. It forces you to move with care and to notice the small signs, paint, sound, the way a cheap cardboard arrow leans. I still drive the coast at night sometimes. I keep the window cracked just enough for the ocean to sit in the car with me. If the bell calls, I let it mark time. If a detour points me toward where the waves would be under my tires in 5 seconds, I keep the fog line and I don't turn. On thick nights now, the bell's 2 notes ride with me until the fog thins. When the first porch lights of town appear, the bell fades like a watchman going off shift. Desert nights look empty until you're in them. Black ribbon, hot wind, stars like salt. I left the warehouse a little after 12:40 a.m. The day heat was gone, but the asphalt still breathed it back. I rolled the windows 2 inches for the smell of dust and creosote. A M radio drifted in and out. A distant station talked weather for towns I'd never see. My route was simple. 2-lane state highway through flat country. No towns for 40 miles. 1 truck stop on the far side of a dry lake bed. The car felt good. Fresh tires, half a tank, coffee in the cup holder gone lukewarm. By mile 112, the world had thinned to shapes and sounds. Cicadas thrummed in the gaps between songs. Heat lightning stitched a silent seam on the horizon. That's when I saw it. White, dead center in my lane. Too square for a rock, too big for a jackrabbit. I lifted off the gas. Low beams washed over a rectangle with a stained lid and red handles. A cheap plastic cooler. My hands tightened. I had time to stop. But stopping in the lane on an empty highway is how you get rear-ended by the one set of lights that shows up in 10 minutes. I checked the oncoming lane. Clear. Checked my mirror. Nothing but stars. Straddle it, I told myself. Center the wheels. Keep speed steady. Don't swerve for junk. I placed the cooler in the shadow between my tires and rolled over it. A hollow thump. No drag. No crack. Just a jolt under my seat like driving a shallow curb. My heart kept kicking hard after the car settled. I glanced at the mirror. The cooler sat where I left it. Still, I watched the tire light. Solid. No yellow glow. A minute later, a pair of headlights bloomed in the distance behind me. Small at first. They swelled slow, then steadied at a fixed size. Whoever it was, they matched me. I set cruise at 59. No reason to rush. The desert punishes rush. At mile 116, a second shape appeared in my lane. Smaller, lower. A dark lump that took light and gave none. I tapped the brake once to settle the nose and gave it the same treatment. Center, shadow, over. This time it was a chunk of pallet wood. The car ticked over it and kept true. The headlights behind me drew closer by a car length. Still no hurry, still no pass. I scanned the right shoulder for any broken down car that might have shed those bits. Nothing but sagebrush and old fence. A M radio gave up to static. I flicked it off and let the wind have the cabin. Mile 117 rose out of the dark on a white post, then slid by. I said the number out loud, 17. Saying numbers calms me. It gives my head a metronome. The headlights behind me made their first move. They faded, dim to black, like someone covered them with a hand. No glow, just a black mass that kept pace where my mirror wanted light to be. I tasted metal. My right foot went light on the throttle, and then held steady again. A beat later, the lights snapped back on. They flared high and dropped low. A flash, then 3 more. Then steady. I checked the mirror longer than I should have. The car behind was a compact sedan. Light color. Front plate. Hard to tell. The glare made a smear where numbers should be. My phone showed 1 bar. I pressed the side button, hit 911, and waited. 2 rings. 3. 911. What's your emergency? Not an emergency yet, I said. State 47 northbound. Mile 117 past the dry lake. Saw a cooler and pallet in my lane. Possible road debris trap. A car behind me is flashing and pacing. Copy, the dispatcher said. Keep doors locked. Do not stop on the highway. Is there a safe place ahead? Truck stop at mile 130, I said. 30 minutes at my speed. I watched the mirror. The sedan held 2 car lengths back. Its lights blinked twice again. Slow. Stay on the line with me, she said. Describe actions. If they try to box you, do not engage. Continue to a lit, populated area. I let her voice sit in the cabin like a third person. It helped. The sedan slid left as if to pass. It came even with my rear quarter and held there at my blind spot. No horn, no handout, just presence. I kept the wheel dead still. No invitation, no game. The sedan eased up until the driver was parallel with me. I looked without turning my head. A man. Ball cap. One hand on the wheel, other hand pointing down at my back tire. He made the same motion again, more emphatic. Down, stop, look. I shook my head once and tapped my hazard lights twice. I pointed forward and made the up ahead gesture. He frowned, said something I couldn't hear, then made a thumb motion to the right shoulder. There was no shoulder, just gravel on hardpack and a slope into brush. He wanted me there anyway. I didn't go. I kept 59 and watched the next reflector. The sedan fell back behind me and tucked in close again. High beams, low, high, low, flash, pause. Still flashing, the dispatcher asked. Yes, I said. He wants me to stop. Don't, she said. Units are rolling from the south, 10 to 12 minutes out. You're 3 minutes from a call box if your phone drops. Left side. Copy. A long, low shape appeared far ahead, straddling my lane and the oncoming. At first it read like a dead animal. Then the edges sharpened. Another cooler. Tape around it this time. I took a breath and spoke the steps out loud for myself. Center, hold line, smooth throttle. I rolled it. Hollow thump. The sedan behind me swerved half into the oncoming lane and missed it by a foot. For the first time, the driver laid on the horn, long, angry. Describe, the dispatcher said. Another cooler, I said. Same placement. Driver behind got mad, still following. Copy. We've had a few of those reports tonight. Do not stop to move them. Highway crews will clear when safe. I passed the call box. A yellow post with a blue light asleep on top. Good to know it was there. Bad to need it. A minute later, the sedan surged forward on my left like it finally meant to pass. I held my line. At the last second, it cut in front of me and braked hard. Not a slam, a test. Just enough to get a reaction. I did not brake. I eased off, gave myself a new gap, and waited. If I brake, I give him my bumper. If I swerve, I give him the ditch. He held that spot 2 car lengths ahead and slowed a hair. 30 seconds like that. Then he sped up just enough to reclaim his 2-length lead, then slowed again. I kept my distance. My hands stayed light on the wheel, my arms loose. Tension makes people crank, and crank ruins you on desert roads. Mile 122 slid by. Heat lightning stitched again on the left. A slow curve revealed the black sheet of the dry lake, wider than I remembered. Moonlight had found a thin veil of cloud and made the dirt shine like water. Up ahead, something else glowed. High, steady, unblinking. The truck stop sign. A green and white rectangle on a pole. I felt relief, like a cool cloth. 5 miles to lights, I said. Good, the dispatcher said. Marked units are 2 miles behind you now. Keep your speed steady. When you reach the lot, pull into the front row by the glass. Doors locked. Stay in the car. The sedan ahead made one more brake test, maybe his last card. I let him. No hit, no rush. Then a shape took the southbound lane. A pair of roof lights, blue-white pop. Another behind it. The lead cruiser slipped between me and the sedan like a door closing. The second slid behind me, a calm wall against the night. I breathed again, the way you do when you realize you've been rationing air. The lead cruiser flashed takedowns and nudged the sedan's speed up. No siren, just authority. The sedan drifted faster, then took the next dirt pullout without signaling. Dust plumed in the headlight wash. When the dust cleared, the sedan was gone into brush or a side track I hadn't seen. We rolled the last 2 miles in a small convoy, with the night feeling less sharp. At the truck stop, I pulled into the center row under 3 panels of glass. The pumps gave off a steady hum. 2 long-haul rigs idled at the far end. A man in a neon vest stacked windshield squeegees with bored care. An officer came to my window with his hands visible, hat off, face open. I cracked the window an inch. He asked if I was okay. I nodded and gave my name. I told it in clean pieces. He listened. He asked for the mile marks. He wrote them on a small pad that had sweat stains around the edges. "That cooler trick," he said, almost to himself. "We've been chasing it up and down the corridor this month. Sometimes it's a prank. Sometimes somebody tries the 'you hit my stuff, you owe me' scam. Sometimes they box folks to make them step out with wallets and keys in hand." He looked at my car, my tires, the clean paint on my bumper. "No damage," he said. "You did the right thing. Center, steady, don't swerve. And you drove to light." The second cruiser idled by the pumps, watching the entry. I watched the entry too, because once you've watched a road hard for 40 minutes, your eyes don't know how to soften yet. "Can we check the stretch for the debris?" I asked. "We're sending a highway unit now," he said. "Better our crew pulls it than a good person stops and becomes a target." He gave me a short list to tape in the car. He spoke it like it was normal, like he'd said it 50 times this week. "Do not stop in the lane. Do not stop on the shoulder at night unless the car won't move. Call and describe. Straddle small objects if you must. If someone points, tap hazards and point forward. Choose the place you stop. Make it glass and cameras. If a car paces with lights off, name your mile markers out loud and keep rolling." I nodded, because saying anything else felt like I might spill the leftover adrenaline back into the cabin. He offered to follow me the next 20 miles. I said yes. The desert is big, and kindness makes it smaller. We pulled out together, cruisers front and back. Past the dry lake, the road felt like a thing I could trust again. The cool from the vents smelled like clean dust. The sky looked like a bowl with a rim of white fire far off to the east. At mile 130, a highway truck idled on the shoulder with its amber beacon turning. 2 workers in vests picked up a white cooler from the lane and set it in the bed. Sand leaked from a crack in the lid and salted the blacktop. One of them pointed at a second cooler farther down with tape around it and shook his head. We rolled by. The officer lifted 2 fingers from his wheel in a small wave. I lifted mine back. I got home at 1:47 a.m. I let the car idle a minute while my hands remembered stillness. Inside, I wrote on an index card and slid it into the glove box. "Night desert. Pick your stop before you need it. Don't swerve for junk. Keep your voice steady when you call. Count mile markers. Choose light. Choose people." I went to bed and lay there listening to nothing. It's strange how loud nothing can be after a road like that. For a week I saw coolers in other places, on porches, in truck beds, by bait tanks at the hardware store. They looked harmless there. They should look harmless. But on a 2-lane highway at midnight, a cooler in the center of the lane is a small test. It asks who chooses your next move. I answer that one now without thinking. Sometimes, when the night is clear, heat lightning stitches the far edge of the desert. It looks like someone sewing a thin, bright line across a vast, dark cloth. Steady hands, small decisions, holding the path.